good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. I'm Rob Evans, and welcome to Daybreak Plus. We're going to break down all the news you may have missed overnight and digging deep into what matters to you. And we begin with the Texas women's basketball team receiving a warm welcome in Tampa, Florida. The team arrived yesterday ahead of the Final Four game against South Carolina. You see them right there as they arrive. Coach with the beads on there. What is this, New Orleans? Big old smile on his face. Like to see that. Of course, they're going to take on South Carolina, a team they are very familiar with in the Final Four. The KVUE sports team will join them in Florida. They're going to head out there tomorrow. The game against South Carolina tips off 6 p.m. Central on Friday. You can watch it on ESPN. And in just a few hours, President Donald Trump will unveil his reciprocal tariffs against other countries. President Trump is calling this Liberation Day. As Perry Russom reports, though, fear is growing that you, American consumers, will be the ones who end up paying for most of it.
The White House says today will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. President Trump revealing his tariffs against other countries.
I'm worried about the tariffs.
With fears Americans will end up paying more for virtually everything, the White House is now asking for trust.
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation.
Trump argues the tariffs will create American manufacturing and boost revenue. Democrats call it a national sales tax.
This will be the largest tax increase on American consumers in modern times.
It's still not clear how large the tariffs will be and which countries will be targeted. One option is a 20% tariff on all imports. One estimate predicts that would lead to food prices rising more than 3%. Prices for computers, clothing, and crops could also see double-digit percentage price increases. That will lead to a cost increase of up to $4,200 a year for the average household.
Things are tough enough as it is now, and then increasing prices is going to hurt a lot of pocketbooks here.
A new poll from the Associated Press shows 58% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, 40% approving.
You can see our markets are down, consumer confidence is down, tourism is down.
U.S. allies preparing for this escalating trade war.
We are going to be very deliberate in terms of the measures we take to fight for Canada, fight against these unjustified measures by the U.S. administration.
Experts say we will likely see shrinkflation again. That's when products are smaller and weigh less, but the prices stay the same as a way to offset these tariffs. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Well, that right there was the moment U.S. Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey found out he had just broken the record for longest marathon speech on the Senate floor. I had to look this up twice. I thought it was wrong. He spoke for 25 hours and 5 minutes. It was all about criticizing the Trump administration, federal employees cuts. After his marathon speech, you got to wonder how. How do you physically do this? Take a listen to what he had to say.
I fasted for days into it. I stopped drinking water a long time ago. I think that had good and bad benefits. I definitely started cramping up from lack of water. So if some of you really drink nothing, at the end I was just trying to do something to stop my muscles from cramping. So there's just a lot of tactics.
My goodness. By the way, Senator Strom Thurmond from South Carolina held the record for 68 years. He was a segregationist, and the Democrat filibustered the advance of the Civil Rights Act back in 1957.
No. It is unfathomable that in 2025 we have not modernized Congress.
And staying on Capitol Hill there, too, working moms teaming up to argue for better work-life balance for lawmakers. Representative Brittany Peterson and Anna Paulina Luna proposed a bill that would allow new parents in Congress to vote by proxy while caring for their newborn kids. Now, what that means is that a lawmaker could have a colleague vote on their behalf, say if they're home and their kids, they're just born, right? You got to be with them there. Despite bipartisan support, though, House Speaker Mike Johnson refused to even bring the bill to the floor. Take a listen to what he had to say about why.
The Speaker is charged with protecting the integrity of the institution, and that's what this was about.
Protecting the integrity, he said. Now, a House vote on the proxy voting measure will now be held as soon as next week. Well, it's 7:06 right now. Let's take a look at weather and traffic. Grace and Hannah, what are we looking at?
All right, today, Rob, we are definitely dealing with not so much here in Austin, but certainly up towards those northern ends of the country. Here's a live look outside at the city. You can see those low-level clouds just kind of hanging around here. Right now, 74 degrees, very muggy out there, anywhere from 80 to 90 to near 100% humidity outside at the moment. You can see that on our relative humidity map right there. So not feeling too great, pretty humid, but thankfully we do have some pretty breezy winds in place, especially for our central and eastern areas today, which should help us feel a little bit better as we step out the door. Allergy counts still high for the oak allergen here, and grasses making their way to the medium category as we start off our day here today, which is good news because it was in a much higher category yesterday. Now we are anticipating a little bit of rain here in Austin this morning. However, it's going to be at the tail end of this cold front, so we're a bit far removed from the ongoing severe weather outbreak that is happening across kind of the central portions of the country this morning and a lot of the Midwest. We have a tornado warning just south of Kansas City right now, and then extending downward towards Oklahoma City and those eastern ends of Oklahoma. We have a tornado watch that you can see in the yellow there, and then those boxes in the orange are actually going to be severe thunderstorm warnings. Now closer to home, just to the north of Dallas here, we're going to start to see that tail end of that cold front move into that metro area here in just a little bit. And some of those showers, you can see even reaching down towards the San Angelo hour, will make their way to Austin today. Now, we're not expecting a major severe weather outbreak here, but of course, we are watching things in other portions of the country. So up towards Dallas, they are actually in an enhanced level 3 risk out of 5 today for those storms making their way in again right now, just passing Wichita Falls just about an hour ago. And then over towards the Memphis area, extending all the way up into the Ohio River Valley here, and of course for the Ozarks too. Those areas are level 4 and 5 out of 5, and that is very rare to be issued. So we really need to watch the middle portions of the country for significant tornado outbreaks today. Of course, strong to severe thunderstorms, very large hail as well. And that hail risk actually does span into Texas, North Texas, and East Texas today too. So call up your friends and family. If you got anyone you know, Dallas all the way to Cincinnati, they need to be weather aware today. Now here in Austin, we are expecting a lighter issuance of some scattered showers as we head towards about the 10 a.m. hour, and then past that will continue to move past our area past almost noon today, and then we'll see much drier conditions for this afternoon. About 5 p.m. still some light shower activity possible and some scattered clouds out there, but most of us will be dry as we head towards about 3 p.m. today. For the rest of this week, Thursday and Friday, most of us will just note that shower activity out there, but then Friday night into Saturday and clearing out Saturday afternoon, we will have another cold front moving through the area. So the largest risk for our scattered showers, thunderstorms, the most wet weather is going to be that first half of Saturday here. And then as we head into the latter half of Saturday, we'll clear things out, and it will be quite blustery as that pushes east on Sunday, but we will also see a bit of a cool down. 66 degrees Sunday, 68 degrees on Monday, certainly spring-like as we head into our second week of April here. How are the roads, Hannah?
And that is why I love this time of year. We got that cool down on tap coming our way, and we got a little bit of traffic coming our way, but I'll tell you what, we've been in pretty good shape. It's been kind of a hump day miracle for us from the traffic gods. Taking a live look right now, we had that nasty backup near Duval yesterday in 183. Quite a different story today. Looking good there and smooth sailing at 290 and South 1st Street, but definitely a couple hiccups across the map. We got some new crashes at play as well, so several miles of that stop and and go coming in from South Austin. So just kind of a copy and paste of every other day across our area. We had a crash a little bit earlier in the Pilot Knob area, moving in from Colton, approaching that South Austin terminal. So still seeing some backups there in the northbound lanes on 183. Manor, you guys have been sitting in some traffic for the last hour or so. This is all heading our way in the westbound lanes, approaching FM 973 on 290. So heads up for you there. And then there's also been kind of a developing stop and go, a slowdown in Georgetown in the southbound lanes on I-35 so far this morning, but no crashes there, which is great. And then we do have a little bit of car trouble here and there as well. This is kind of near that the Miller area on Airport, seeing some stop and go in those southbound lanes. And then we've got some debris in the northbound lanes. So lions and tigers and bears, we've got it all. And then the good news is still pretty sleepy out in the hill country. Good morning to you. Seeing a little bit of some stop and go on 281 southbound from Burnett, but really not too bad today. And then heading out east, also looking pretty good. Elgin and Bastrop, Cedar Creek, y'all are slowing down just a little bit on 71 if you are making your way out there. But like I said, I mean, right now we're just kind of battling some of this typical congestion. Round Rock, Manor, Buda, you guys are definitely feeling that the most right now. Happy Wednesday, Rob.
All right, Hannah, thank you very much. So did you get a tax refund yet this year? Well, before you go splurging it, make sure you spend it wisely. Consumer Reports breaks down the best ways to make sure every dollar counts.
Whether it's the child tax credit, an HVAC replacement, or you withheld too much on your pay stub, getting extra cash from Uncle Sam is always a welcome boost. But how you spend it can make a big difference. Money expert Beth Blaisdell says your financial priorities should guide your next move, starting with knocking out high-interest debt like credit cards and loans.
And maybe you choose one credit card and you go ahead and pay that off so that you can then have cash flow for other things.
Next, stash it in savings. If you don't have an emergency fund, you're not alone. A recent U.S. News and World Report survey found that 40% of participants could not cover an unexpected $1,000 expense. Blaisdell says even a small refund is the perfect jumpstart to building an emergency savings account.
I know some people think even if you're just getting $500, that's not enough, but it doesn't matter because what we're doing is creating momentum.
Plan ahead for this year and beyond. Will you need a home repair, new tires, or even a new car? Your tax refund can give you a head start on those big expenses. Blaisdell says there's nothing wrong with the little splurge, a nice coffee or dinner, but she warns against blowing your entire refund.
Because if we do that and then we go, well, was it really worth it?
Finally, consider boosting your investments if you're debt-free and have an emergency fund.
Pay your future self because your future self is going to thank you down the road.
It's the best way to make that refund cash grow. This is Ashley Prieto.
Way to spend your refund, by the way, is to donate it, find a good charity with the causes you support. You love, obviously, to see that. Consumer Reports can always help you do that. An Austin-based chocolate company, by the way, plans to close. The owners say the cost of ingredients more than doubled over the past year alone. The owner of Madhu Chocolate in Southeast Austin says cocoa beans went from $7 a kilogram to $16. Cocoa butter went from $9 to $41. Severe weather and disease devastated West African cocoa crops in 2024, which increased their prices. Take a listen to what they had to say.
It is very sad and depressing and heartbreaking. There's a lot of emotions going in. We have like so many days of crying about that because obviously we started from grounds up.
Certainly hard to see all that work that they have done going into that. That was a harsh sheet. A group to the owner of Madhu Chocolate there. And as they get ready to close the doors at the end of the month, the owner says they look back at the journey with happiness that they created more than a chocolate bar. He says they created community. All right, it's 7:15 right now. And later this morning, community leaders against a bill that would ban people from certain countries from buying land in Texas will gather at the Capitol. House Bill 17 would ban individuals from China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia from buying property in Texas. Advocates argue the bill would lead to racial profiling. Several groups against the bill will be meeting at the state capitol at 11 a.m. And the Texas Senate advanced a bill that would require voters to prove their citizenship to register to vote. It's Senate Bill 16, and it would require both current and new voters in Texas to provide proof of citizenship. A U.S. passport, birth certificate, or naturalization papers will work to register. Voters without proof will be placed on a separate roll, only eligible to vote in federal races except for the president. The bill also makes it a felony for election officials to knowingly registered non-citizens. Supporters, though, say it is necessary to secure elections. Take a listen.
And one of the rights that U.S. citizens enjoy is that right to vote in U.S. elections. It is reserved to U.S. citizenship. It is something that's been paid for dearly. And with that, it's important that citizenship be verified at the point of voter registration.
And that was a state Senator Brian Hughes right there. Critics say the bill would disproportionately affect voters from historically marginalized groups because some may have trouble finding proof of citizenship. They also argue it's not necessary because there are very few cases of non-citizens voting in elections. Take a listen.
At the hearing, you said that 6,500 non-citizens were removed from the voter rolls, but the Secretary of State's office clarified last fall that in fact there were only 581 suspected non-citizen registrants. Those initial numbers have been found to be inflated and included otherwise eligible voters who had moved or died.
And that was State Senator Carol Alvarado. The bill now heads to the full House for consideration. And we leave you this morning with something to talk about. There's nothing more embarrassing when you make a mistake at work by trying to be clever and you fall flat, right? If you're not funny, just don't try. Danny News shares the story of a boss who logged verbal flubs.
Went to college at a place called MIT. MIT. I know how to spell it.
People don't usually like being corrected, but for recently retired Ford executive Mike O'Brien, how much more fun did it make work?
Oh, immeasurably more fun.
You may have seen the Michigan native's name recently after his half a dozen whiteboards started picking up national attention. You see, he was with Ford for 32 years, but in the final decade, he became known around the office for keeping track of every time somebody slightly mixed up a commonly used phrase.
Someone said that I heard it through the grapefruit, rather than saying I heard it through the grapevine.
By the time he retired at the end of February, Mike had 2,229 submissions on the list. Over the years, some of his favorites included, "It couldn't be further from the opposite," "We need to figure out what their secret sausage is," and occasionally they could be two phrases rolled into one, like, "We need to read between the tea leaves." But for the record, Mike swears it was not mean-spirited and everyone was in on the joke.
I would take my pen and I would click it fairly, intentionally loudly, and then start writing down. Everyone would be snickering.
In fact, Mike was not safe either. Of the more than 2,200 on there, he contributed the third most verbal flubs.
You do it, I do it, everybody does it.
And even though the list is now retired too, while I was telling Mike how excited I was to send the story to my father, it seemed he was suddenly okay making an exception.
Like, Dad, this is the most up our alley of any alleys we've ever been up.
That might have made the board, by the way. It's more upper alley than any alley that we've ever been up.
Scared to say anything now? Mike says in the last month his coworkers have continued texting him board words, as they call them, and apparently some folks have even reached out about a potential book deal. In New York, for ABC News, I'm Danny New.
I love it. I think it's awesome. I'd love to read a book like that. That's it for Daybreak Plus. Let us know what you like to talk about. Maybe your favorite flubs or favorite misspeak. Do you hate when people say a certain thing like supposedly, or you can't have your cake and eat it too? Things like that just don't really make a whole lot of sense. Send us your message, 512-459-9442, because you can have your cake and eat it, but you can't eat your cake and have it, you see. You can also message me on social media at Rob Evans TV on Instagram, Facebook, or X. And stick around because Daybreak continues right here on KVUE+. Goodbye, everybody.